Maybe? Oh! 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 I think we're actually live. Maybe? We might actually be live, guys. It might be a thing. Maybe. Okay, it says I'm live. There's only one way to tell for certainty. And that's if you say something. Okay, so it looks like I'm actually not live. Even though I am live and I'm connected, but it's not actually showing up. Which is kind of weird, actually. For those of you watching on YouTube, this is our third or so major attempt to try and go live. Twitch has been having issues this morning with their ingest servers. Not really sure what's going on. Don't care, as long as it works. And that's the important part. But even now, when it finally says I'm live, apparently I'm not actually live. So you get a few, like an extra minute of me being live before the Twitch people get to be on live. That's how special you are, YouTube viewers. You get that extra minute of crap. Oh my god. Hi. Okay. So, now to play Pokemon Go for 8 minutes. Catch 'em all, catch 'em all. No. So I realized something really depressing recently. I I have been trying to lose weight recently because I'm a fat, worthless bastard, and I've been succeeding. But then I realized something. See, I actually have gone to school and done studies on proper physical health. So I actually know a decent amount about physical fitness and whatnot. And I realized that the biggest reason why I haven't been losing weight at the rate I should be is because I don't have the same muscle setup as I used to. So my metabolism is basically screwed. So the only way to lose weight at the rate I want to is to really up my muscle game, which I actually can't do. I don't have access to the equipment. And there's only so much you can do without equipment. So it's like... So I hope you bear with me for being fat for like another 6 months or so. It's about how long it's going to take to get me down to an acceptable weight loss. And then like another 5 months and after that to get to the point where I actually want to be. So yeah, in about a year, I'm going to be at a better weight. God, I hate that crap. Anyways, hi everyone. Little Billy, Zed, Mike Romano, Shadow, Deutsch, Zed, Dakoita. Did I already say Zed? Nirazaz, Leander, Snow, Lurker. Oh, what's up everyone? Now, this is probably going to be the shortest lore week ever. Because, hey Sean. Hello Renegade. Because I don't have that much to talk about this week. There are two things that are probably going to be at least a decent amount of discussion, but I don't have that much news for this week. There just hasn't been that much that has struck me as worthy of talking about. And I don't just want to fill your day with irrelevant drivel. It's okay, Deutsch. I understand that you hate, my stream. It's all right. Oh, excuse me. And hi, Indiana. And Oldrith, what's up? The metabolism is my biggest problem right now, Leander. I'm still at the point where it's difficult for me to eat more than once a day. So, if there was anything at PAX that was newsworthy, I didn't see it. I'm serious. I didn't see anything newsworthy at PAX. It was weird. I was expecting to. I keep waiting for the big Diablo expansion that we keep waiting on. It's just not happening. Anyways, we're going to keep rambling for about 3 more minutes, as usual. Did they announce anything worth a damn at the Apple conference? Because I literally can't think of anything right now. I really can't. I'm not trying to be disingenuous. I can't remember if there was anything worth mentioning there. Yeah, PAX Prime happened, I guess, last week. Last weekend. Oh my god. No, we've got to have the wireless headset, and they're going to be the easiest to lose things in the known world, and we're getting rid of phone jacks. Yeah, no. You see this headphone jack right here? This is a thing. I'm glad I got a phone before they went away. There's no news there. It's dumb. There's the news. They're dumb. Oh, excuse me, PAX West. No, it's just PAX Prime. Let's just call it what it is. Or maybe PAX Seattle. I don't know. Biddedeep, 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 biddedeep. Snake, I've come to you loading your 01 playlist. This is a sneaking playlist. Star Wars Mos Eisley. Okay, they made an Unreal thing of Mos Eisley. It looks really cool. EA will never let Obsidian make a Star Wars game for the same reason that I've already talked about. There's nothing else to add. It's cool, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just one dev having fun with it. Hey, Corellis. I have no idea, Mafia. I'm not geared enough for heroics yet. Star Wars Cantina. Music and laughter and old Jedi Masters. Paximus Prime. It is always weird talking about PAX, the event, to PAX, my friend. In my defense, PAX, the friend, has been PAX and been called PAX for a lot longer than PAX, the event, has existed. He's been PAX since 1998. I think that actually outdates Penny Arcade in general. I'm not sure. Can you even hear this music? I've been fiddling with the audio settings lately because I'm doing a new method of ruminations, and so I've been fiddling with sound. Yes, there's music playing right now. Which one, Zed? Because I don't know what you're talking about off the top of my head. Yeah, the FF15 footage I didn't really feel was newsworthy. It looks cool, but I have nothing new to add to it. It still looks like the gameplay is fun, and I still don't really know much about the story. No, KOTOR 2 will probably not get a proper remake. Ever, actually. Wind chime music. Well, would you believe it was wind chimes, Shadow? I purchased several ambient sound clips that are each 70 minutes long and just had one of those playing. So, I think that's long enough. 9 minutes. Let's do this. So let's start talking about news. We're going to talk about the two tiny little tidbits of news I want to talk about first, and then we'll talk about, real news. Because I got 2 points of real news here. No and yes, respectively, Uldrith. Okay, so first of all, I just think this is actually pretty awesome and a indicator of exactly where we're at as in terms of a society. How many of you were around when cosplaying was just beginning to be a thing? Bonus question. How many of you were around and still hear people who have the negative connotations of early cosplaying, of thinking of cosplayers as freaks? of how you used to use the word cosplayer, as an insult. Anyone remember that? I mean, I do. Anyone? I mention this because, of course, cosplaying has become much, much, much more acceptable to the point of being commonplace, to the point where if you go to a convention, at this point, basically any convention, you're going to see people who are dressed up, and that's normal. In fact, it's encouraged at this point in time. Now, of course, there is a... Excuse me. Hello, LexMix. There is a big difference between being acceptable within a confine of a group, a social group, and being acceptable in general, right? However, yes, I'm clearly asking if you were around in ancient Egypt, Deutsch. Anyways, so a friend of mine was actually at a linen store, yarn, threads, that kind of a thing, and they were going through it, and there were displays up. See, Dragon Con happened pretty recently. There were displays up, and each display was like, here's insert person here. Because as of the date we're at right now, professional cosplaying is now a thing. There are people who cosplay for a living. That's their primary job. And so there were several professional cosplayers, not physically there, but they're like posters of them and pictures of their outfits. And then it would say, would you like to make this outfit too? This item is in aisle 3. This item is in aisle 5. This item is in aisle 6. You need this color. Here's the exact code of this color. And it showed where you could make their outfits in that store. You could get all the materials necessary to make it. And I just think that's kind of cool. I think it's kind of nice to see that sort of acceptance. It's rare to see what I consider acceptance as opposed to tolerance. Well, I don't want to get into that discussion. We might talk about that on Halloween. But it was nice to see that kind of acceptance of the fact that cosplaying is not only a thing, but there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing weird about it. There's nothing like, what's wrong with you? Trying to dress up as some kind of fictional character from the Japanimation. Yeah, no, it was cool. Because they actually showed, all that kind of thing. And, of course, there was lots and lots of cosplaying at Dragon Con. In fact, there was a news report done at Dragon Con this year that basically was like, and here's the major cosplayers who have decided to attend this one and are showing off their stuff and have been hired to be at this booth or this area or whatever, that kind of a thing. And I thought that was cool. So I really don't have much else to add to this. I just think it's kind of nice how the iteration of society continues on. This is actually fairly normal. This is nothing new. Things slowly become more accepted over time. That's been true for most of human society, actually. Someone recently asked me a question on Tumblr saying, do you think video games will always be considered left in the gutter as far as considered, modern, proper art? And I said, no, absolutely not. For the same reason I didn't think television or movies or books or theater or any of the other things would be left in the gutter. Because time by time, inch by inch, these things become acceptable over time. These things become more mainstream over time. And it just becomes normal until the people... Because there's always going to be the niche group who are like, of course it's acceptable. And anyone who thinks video games aren't art is stupid. And then there's going to be the group of people who are not thinking that, but they'll slowly start to accept. I mean, to use it, probably one of my favorite aspects of this is Star Trek. Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek TNG were commonly popular, as in normal. As in, most people on the street, you could say Picard or Data or Kirk or Spock, and they probably know what you're talking about. And that's, normally acceptable. And that would be cool. To see that. By contrast, you mentioned Voyager, Enterprise, or DS9, and they're like, much less likely to know what I'm talking about. So we're still kind of in the DS9 group, but we're getting there. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about on that. Another thing I want to talk about that's really indicative of where our society is right now is Doctor Who. Kind of. Bear with me. So for those of you not aware, there's a lost episode. I actually don't remember the name. I could look it up really quick. When I say lost episode, Doctor Who was different than most shows that we see here in America. So, I'm sure my British viewers are like, what the heck, it's different. But anyways, there was an episode called Power of the Daleks. It's actually a good episode. I guess the term story might apply better, but anyways, it's a missing story. It's a missing story. It's gone. And for the first time, very soon here, they're actually going to go ahead and be releasing a full animation of it that's coming out very soon, actually. I believe this month. And that's awesome. And so I just wanted to share that for my Doctor Who fans who don't even know that. I'm sure most of you knew it before I even mentioned it. That's not the main thing I want to talk about, though. The main thing I want to talk about is a concept that's so alien to modern society, I had to explain it to a friend of mine in detail. No joke. See, for those of you not aware, there are Doctor Who episodes that are lost. What do I mean by lost? I mean they're gone. They're so gone that the odds of them ever being recovered is probably zero at this point. I hate to say that, and Lord knows I've already been proven wrong on this. I have already said that statement, and then, like a year or two after I made that statement, they actually did finally find a few new episodes, including Enemy of the World, I believe was the one. It was a Troughton series, a great one. But yeah, so there are episodes that are just gone, gone. And again, I still say this with absolute certainty, the odds of them being found are approaching zero. And I'm not going to go into the full details of why. I've actually studied it myself independently. If you want to see someone talk about it extensively, Sci-Fi Debris actually has an entire section on Doctor Who's Lost and the specifics of how that happened. But the funny thing is, if you really look at that, that's normal. This is why this is so weird to talk about, because nowadays we exist in a modern culture where losing something permanently is actually pretty unlikely. We have digital backups. We have the internet, which is still a relatively new technology in terms of a culture, and we have the ability to share information far and wide. We have the ability to toss something out there and it to get repeated 100,000 times. The idea of something being lost now is so alien. Rewind time about 50 years and things getting lost was the norm. Doctor Who, of course, gets lots of attention because it's a cultural pastime. It is a part of British culture and history. And I'm not saying that as a fan of Doctor Who, which I am. I'm saying that as like from the perspective of a historian, So that is something that is an important part of British history. And so a lot of time and effort and money has been put on restoring Doctor Who. But how many? There's actually a list I've seen somewhere. There is a lot of old television, old movies, old audio recordings that are gone. They're lost. And we're not going to get them back. No effort was ever made to catalog them. It's one of those funny things because, you look back and say, how? But at the time, no one thought it mattered. It wasn't their job to maintain it. It cost money, time, and effort to archive it. It cost even more time and money to archive it properly so it would actually, endure. So, again, it's understandable how things can get lost like this. But nowadays, what are the odds that a video game that has come out within the last 10 years will be permanently lost? Pretty damn low. Pretty damn low. It's still possible. And again, there's of course a gradient here. I'm talking more about things that are a little bit more commonly spread. Like, for example, if I were to throw out a game right now, if I was to make a stupid fan game, I shouldn't say it like that, but my game would be stupid. If I was to make a game and like RPG Maker tomorrow and toss it out there, the odds are that game would be lost. What are the odds that we'll never be able to find Mass Effect 3 again? What are the odds that we'll never be able to find, something else like... Now, this is funny that I say this because there is an exception of this. I can name an exception right now. It's called Homeworld Cataclysm. They lost Homeworld Cataclysm. Now, the funny thing is, Homeworld Cataclysm still exists. There is still Homeworld Cataclysm out there. I actually still have my copy. It's right there. Along with my other CDs I still have. But the source material that they used to code Cataclysm was lost. It's gone. And that's why they didn't remake, Cataclysm when they remade 1 and 2. Now, MMOs are an interesting example because MMOs, every MMO that has gone offline, or excuse me, let me say this correctly, every major MMO that has gone offline is actually still going. It's still around. Um, Space Above and Beyond, or not Space Above and Beyond, Earth Above and Beyond, or Earth, shoot, I can't think of it, Earth and Beyond, there we go, Earth and Beyond, you know, those files still exist out there. The Sims Online, that's still a thing that's out there. Of course, the original EverQuest is still out there. Ultima Online is still out there. You know, I could go down the list. Star Wars Galaxies, that's the one that's still going, technically. My point is, nowadays, there exists methods to procure copies of things that didn't exist back then. Um... Yeah, Silent Hill 2 is another example of this. Actually, that is a good example of that. So we got Silent Hill 2 and Cataclysm are the only two examples I can think of right now. So we almost lost Star Wars. This is not a joke. Actually, when I know a lot of you hate the special edition, that's your right, of course. But of course, special editions. The one good thing that I think most people will agree about the special editions was they restored the original Star Wars because, and I remember reading a ton of and watching a ton of things behind the scenes of the making of and how they did it, blah blah blah. They had issues, like serious issues, restoring the movies as is. And the statement was made more than once that if they hadn't started doing the process of restoring the original prints, they probably never would have been able to because the old prints had simply degraded so far. You know? So, my point is, while there are several examples of, say, source code being lost, and we've already named several, it's not the same as it would have been back in the freaking 60s and 70s, is it? It's not the same as Doctor Who. Because when we lose a Doctor Who episode, we don't have much to go off of there, do we? In some cases, we have audio clips. Some. In some cases, we have transcripts. In some cases, we have nothing. We have lost the source code to Homeworld Cataclysm, but I could still play Homeworld Cataclysm. We have lost the source code to Silent Hill 2, but I can still play Silent Hill 2. We have lost the source, you know, the MMOs have gone offline, yet we can still play those MMOs. You get my point? Now, I'm not saying everything is immune to being lost. That is a ridiculous blanket statement. What I am saying is that our culture has moved on to the point where losing information permanently is much less likely than it was back then. And I just think that's interesting that we've reached that point in our history. And that's all I got to say about that, really. I talk too much. Let's talk about something I don't want to talk about, but a lot of people asked me to comment on it. The PS4 Pro. Bleh. PS4 Pro. I don't want to talk about the PS4 Pro. I'm just going to start with this, okay? But I'm going to walk into this as neutrally as I can. So, let's go ahead and start with the basics. The PS4 Pro is, if you look at the specs, it's basically about twice as good as the current PS4. So, woo. It's coming out pretty soon. I don't even remember the release date, but it's within the next couple of months. It's going to be ready for this holiday season. Okay, woo. Thank you, Mr. Darkness. Looks spiffy. You know, it's going to be using the new. It's going to be using the new controller, all that fun stuff. Here's the interesting thing about the PS4 Pro. It's better hardware than the PS4. But not as good hardware as the Scorpio. Now, this is an interesting thing for me, especially from a cultural perspective. Hear me out. Because I have heard some people look at the exact same situation and say one thing, and another group of people say a completely other thing. Here's what I'm talking about. Some people look at this and say, well, Sony has won. They just win. I mean, Sony has gotten it out first. Sony got to the moon first, you know? They've gotten the PS4 Pro out before the Scorpio, and therefore there's no reason whatsoever for Microsoft for people that even think about Microsoft, for people that even think about getting the Scorpio. Who gives a damn about the Scorpio? Because the PS4 is out now. On the flip side, I've heard people say the exact opposite about the same circumstances. Why would I get the cheaper, or the worse version now, when I can wait and get the better version later? Because the Scorpio is better in terms of hardware than the PS4 Pro. So why would I bother with getting the PS4 Pro when I could just wait several more months, about 8 more months from what I understand, and get the Scorpio? Because the Scorpio will be better. Now, you might... Both of these lines of logic don't apply to me, because for me, the game library decides, yeah, I'm with Takoida. You guys know me. I don't give a damn about your hardware. I give a damn about the games. So for me, I have no particular reason to ever get a Scorpio or an X-Bone, and I have a very, it's slowly growing but still non-existent reason to get a PS4, right? So in both cases, I'm like, nah. But there are plenty of people who do care about the hardware, and there are plenty of people who do not want to make their own PC. I want to talk about this a bit, because I know I'm just as guilty of this as anyone else. People like me, and I'm going to call myself out on this, tend to get a little elitist about PC gaming. I'm not talking about PC Master Race crap. That's a whole other category of garbage that we're not even talking about. I'm talking about elitism of PC gaming. For example, what is my biggest reason why I have never gotten an Xbox? I didn't get an Xbox, a 360, a One, nor do I intend to get to Scorpio. I have a PC, is my reason. No. And so, for me, it is simply logical that I would use my PC to play those games. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that attitude right there. Here's the problem. Here's where things get into the elitist thing. And again, I'm calling myself out on this. Because I tend to look at the Xbox and call it a waste. I tend to look at the Xbox and say, well, why would anyone get that when they can just get a PC? And that is a flawed perspective, to be blunt. That is a perspective of automatically assuming that everyone out there knows how to do PC gaming. Because let's be 100% clear. If you just want to sit down and play some games, and you don't know how to make your own PC, you're trying to get a PC is this big, expensive, and probably doomed to failure, vast array of stupid. Why do you think Alienware made so much damn money? Let's just start with that. Why do you think prefab PCs still sell for stupid amounts of money and still make money? It's because of the fact that so many people out there who want to get into PCs for gaming or for office work or for whatever reason, doesn't matter, don't know how to make their own computer. Now, I know how to do that. I've also gone to school for that kind of crap. I've also been doing this for literally decades, plural, at this point. I've reached the 21-year mark, actually. So, I know how to make a PC. Everyone doesn't. What I'm trying to say here is that I understand now that I'm trying to grow up a little bit, why some people would look at a PC game that also happens to be on an Xbox and say, well, I'm just going to get a frickin' Xbox. You know? I'm just going to go buy an X-Bone, and boom, I have my PC. Make sense? So, and yeah, poor Shadow got completely conned by that sales. That was terrible. So people have the choice of spending way too much money on getting a PC because they don't know how to do it properly, or they simply don't know how to do it properly and fail, or they can get a Scorpio. So it's understandable to me why some people would look at a Scorpio or look at a PS4 and say, yeah, I'd rather just have that. You know, I'd rather just play the game, right? I'd rather just be able to sit down and actually enjoy gaming rather than trying to devote myself to this whole thing. This is actually the definition of a casual gamer, but not in the insulting term that it's usually applied. And there's nothing wrong with that. So all I'm trying to talk about here is the fact that I find it very interesting, because Sony has clearly and deliberately made the marketing strategy of, we want to come out with a console now. Everything about the PS4 and everything about its development, PS4 Pro, I'm just going to start calling it the Pro. Everything about the Pro clearly indicates that they wanted to get it out before this holiday release, that was their strategy. And it is a valid strategy. They got to the moon first. And now it'll be available for this holiday season. Whether that is going to succeed for them versus the Scorpio, that's a bigger question. And I can't predict that. I mean, we have to know about that in, a year, basically, No, Formosan, I can't. I am nowhere near intelligent enough to teach people how to build their own PCs. Remember, I'm not a good teacher at all. Oh, sorry. This holiday season, we will be releasing PS4 Pro for all our viewers. But honestly, I don't... The last thing I want to talk about with the PS4 Pro is I don't get why people are all up in arms about it. I have heard so many people trying to talk about it, and yet I have heard nothing discussed. I have heard people saying, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, peas and carrots, and that's basically it. I don't really get it. Moving on. This is the last thing I have to talk about. Mass Effect. Andromeda. My computer is fan-cooled. I do not trust liquid cooling. I never have. I've also never needed it. Mass Effect Andromeda. For those of you not aware, they released a bit of a tech demo, and a lot of people have poured over it. I have poured over it as well. As I was watching it, I have to ask, was I the only person who was picturing No Man's Sky when they were playing through the Mass Effect 4 thing? I'm honestly curious. Was I the only one who immediately thought of No Man's Sky as they were playing through it? Thoughts on No Man's Sky? I did a video on it, Lord Immortal. Go watch that. Summarizing is hard. I'm not smart enough to do that. So yeah, you're scanning. You're going into an alien place, an alien vault, where there's this precursor race and sentinels flying around who will go hostile if you get too near them and piss them off. And you're scanning things in order to get uploads of something, and I don't know, the whole thing just really struck me as that. Nice, Samurai. You're not actually missing much. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that makes me wonder. Let me go ahead and talk as a fan of Mass Effect first, okay? Let me split myself in two. We'll put the neutral person over here who's going to have the well-reasoned discussion, and we'll put the fan over here, okay? Let's just differentiate these two real quick. Okay, so here's the fan. What the crap are they doing, constantly spending all this time on the tech and the graphics, and look how shiny it is when they give us nothing of any actual substance. It looks like the most generic science fiction thing I've seen in recent memory, and I'm including No Man's Sky in that. It's the entire, okay, there's this precursor race, and you're scanning and understanding it, and oh my god, you know, I'm barely scratching the surface, and there's a jetpack, and it's just, okay, you didn't show me anything of meat or substance. I have nothing additional to add at all to the overall things that I care about in Mass Effect from that demo. Okay, split back over here to the neutral perspective. Anyone remember when Mass Effect first came out? The first one. Anyone remember the fact that, and I've made this comment to self because I screwed up on this as well. I was watching Mass Effect when, you know, the opening thing is like, oh, we're going to do this whole, you know, warp thing, and all of a sudden nothing shifts and a dialogue option pops up, and I was looking at it kind of frowning like, well, wait a minute. And it took several seconds for me to realize that it was gameplay, that it was in-game engine, not a pre-rendered cutscene. Anyone else have that same perspective when Mass Effect 1 first came out? Because I had that perspective. I mean, obviously, I'm sharing that story with you. When I first saw Mass Effect 1, for the very first time, I was like, oh my god, this is a cutscene, this is game! What I'm trying to get at here is that Mass Effect, and this is true on the part of the developers as well, actually, has always been trying to push graphical limits to try and make the game look as shiny and pretty as possible. And the game does look very shiny and very pretty. Andromeda, I mean, specifically. There is some very good aesthetic design on display. The overall design of the ruins, the overall the lighting they were using. Granted, it looked a lot like the Borg, or the... Actually, it didn't really strike me as the Borg. I'm sorry, I actually wrote a note about that. It reminded me more of the Necrons than anything else. Nice, Tigzar. But yeah, so... I'm looking at it, and it's like, this is very pretty, and it's game. This is not pre-rendered. What we were seeing was actual gameplay, was actual, I mean, scripted gameplay, but it's still gameplay. That is in-game engine. It's continuing that exact same thing with regards to the Mass Effect 1 effect. There's only one Necrons, Django. We all know this. There's clearly going to be a big emphasis on exploration. We've heard this a few trillion times. And I'm not sure what I think about that. Every time I hear a developer say, our game has an exploration emphasis, what I hear is, go grind your face off getting collectibles. Because usually, when a developer says that, that's what actually happens. That being said, I did enjoy several explorative aspects of, for example, Mass Effect 1. So it's entirely possible, it's entirely feasible that actually they're going to go with that kind of direction. But the fact that they keep emphasizing exploration has me hesitant. Next thing, they keep talking about the Remnant. Now, the Remnant are obviously the new precursors. I'm not sure what I think about that. I'm just going to go ahead and put this prediction out right now. I sincerely doubt this is true. But wouldn't it be interesting if the Remnant, the precursors of this of the Andromeda Galaxy, are actually the citizens from the original Mass Effect galaxy, and it's been a longer time than we thought it was, you know? In other words, like, we're finding the ruins of the Asari. It's just been, you know, we were in sleep for way longer than we thought, or something like that, you know, something like that. But anyways, so we've got this new Remnant. Honestly, from a storytelling perspective, I kind of would have preferred there to be no precursors in this one. Not that I don't think, you know, we talked about this just yesterday, about how precursor societies are normal. You know, that's a common thing in sci-fi. That's not my problem. My problem is Mass Effect has already done that technically twice. Because the Reapers, hell, actually the Leviathans and the Reapers, if we're counting the Leviathans, and the Protheans all qualify as precursor races. We've already done that. This is why I mentioned my idea of it being us, because that actually adds something to the precursor thing, so that it's relevant rather than just being another ancient race. Make sense? Yeah, and Lord of Mordor has another good idea. It could be the Protheans that managed to escape, that managed to flee the galaxy, and have set up shop in Andromeda, you know? So that would be kind of cool. But I'm so there's two things so far that makes me hesitant about the story aspect of Andromeda. Lots of explorations, and, you know, the Remnant. The jetpack looks kind of cool. I do like jetpacks in general. There are very few things in life that cannot be improved by adding the word jetpack to them. Like, here's my Canada Dry jetpack! It's the Sith, I knew it. But I do like the jetpack as a gameplay mechanic. It does add more free-form exploration in a good way. And from everything I've heard, it will be upgradable as well. So that actually sounds cool, the idea that we can make it go longer, or farther, or stronger, better, faster, etc. The Ryder family thing. I want to talk about that, too. Also, that would be interesting. Hang on, I want to talk about what Django said, just really quick. Django mentioned how this might be the beginning of change of the standard BioWare story format, which Dragon Age Origins, you know, pretty much codified. Although KOTOR 1 actually, I would say, started the BioWare format, because if you look at the skeletal structure of Dragon Age Origins and KOTOR, they're actually pretty much the same. I like it, Dragoon. So it's entirely possible this will be the beginning of a new storytelling format for BioWare. I want to talk about two things regarding that. First, the reason why I think that's most likely. Because in every way that really matters, this isn't BioWare anymore. How many people working at BioWare right now are BioWare veterans? Are people that we would identify as developers of BioWare? We know so many people. I'm not even actually 100% certain of the answer to this question. How many people have abandoned BioWare at this point in time and moved on to do other things? Oh, true. I should clarify the Mass Effect side of the team. I should clarify. Although a few people have left the Dragon Age team as well, from what I understand, but not nearly as many. Anyways, point being, it is entirely possible that we will have a new storytelling style just because just because of the fact that we have new people involved in the development. Second note, is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? I'm one of those weird people who doesn't care if you do the same type of story again, the same type of gameplay again, as long as you do it well. I am a fervent defender of the Pokemon series. I'm a fervent defender of the Elder Scrolls series, except for Skyrim. I say that there's nothing necessarily wrong with doing the same format as long as you do it well. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the BioWare format. I don't. I think it worked. I think it worked in KOTOR. I think it worked in Dragon Age. I think it worked in Neverwinter Nights. Just my opinion. However, I also don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with trying a new format. So that leaves us with the question of, which would you prefer? Which would you prefer? We've got a mostly new team on the Mass Effect team. Would you prefer they tried to emulate the old guard style? Or would you prefer they try to make their new style? Hey, Malachor. It is also worth noting that both are going to draw ire from fans, no matter what you do. There's no avoiding that. If you try something new, people say, this isn't Mass Effect. If you try something old, people say, this isn't Mass Effect. Well, ignore quality. Assume it would be good one way or the other. Assume if they make it of the old style, it will be good. Assume if they try something new, it will be good. Presume good. Which would you prefer? And stop cheating on the question, damn it. Because that's what y'all are doing. You're ignoring the question. Skeletor, that did. I'll get my opinion, but I want to hear you guys' first. Django, if Inquisition had flopped, it would have been the end. They managed to limp on because Inquisition sold well. Hi, Salty. I'm seeing some interesting answers here. I'll go and give my answer now while people are still typing. I would prefer new. My reason why? Two big reasons. First of all, you're a new developer. Put your stamp on it. Make your Mass Effect. You may fail. You may make a new form of thing and try something new and it will fail. However, if you succeed, you will have effectively made your Mass Effect, the new style of what Mass Effect means. It will have moved on from what Mass Effect used to mean to what Mass Effect means now. And that brings me to my second point. Distance yourself from frickin' Mass Effect 3. I hate to say it, but Mass Effect 3 was a flop. Whatever your personal feelings on it, and Lord knows I have heard tons of people who really liked Mass Effect 3, it was nevertheless a creative and financial flop. It is a bit of a joke to a lot of people. So, from a purely marketing, financial, business perspective, distancing yourself from Mass Effect 3 is probably a good idea. In total honesty, I'm not even sure why they're calling this a Mass Effect game. I'm being serious. They should just make a new science fiction game. That's my honest thoughts. There's no reason to continue the Mass Effect series, really. In this format. I should clarify that. Not that I'm saying I want Mass Effect to die off or anything like that, but, yeah. Have I been on the BioWare forums? You mean the ones they shut down? But no, I have not been on the BioWare forums. Not lately, anyways. Now, Django is correct. Brand recognition is why you do that. I've spoken against brand recognition purchasing for years and years and years. I have spoken against it since the Game Boy. The original Game Boy, when a game called Final Fantasy Adventure came on. Remember that? Final Fantasy Adventure, for those of you not aware, is part of the Mana series of games. It has nothing to do with Final Fantasy. But brand recognition. Again, this has been happening for a long time, is my point. This is not new. Oh, of course, Spirit of Mana. That's all I do, is I go to forums and complain about Blizzard and BioWare. And who else is it popular to bash nowadays? Money, Fenrir. The economist in me, the accountant in me, has to acknowledge that brand recognition works and that they have to do that kind of thing to be able to be feasible. If this was a perfect world where people could just make a game with no regards to finances, I tell you one thing, gaming development would be completely freaking different. But money has to be involved. Therefore, they need to try and make sure that their work is going to sell. Oh, excuse me, I need to complain about Square Enix, DC, Ubisoft, Bethesda, Disney. They ruined Star Wars. I hate Episode 7. Really, Formosan? So the first FF was also the last one, huh? Anyways. There was one other thought I had, real quick, about the Mass Effect Andromeda thing. Any of you out there play Borderlands? Because I got a real Vault Hunter vibe from that. We gotta go and find all these vaults and see what's in them. A Magog world ship. That's funny for two reasons. How do I envision Dragon Age 4? Man, I have no idea at this point. Yes, I did, Django. I talked about it earlier. I really don't have much to say about it, though. Oh, yeah, I should complain about Halo, too. Gotta get all the complaints in. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry, I did have one other thing I wanted to talk about. Right. With regards to Mass Effect Andromeda. It's called the Ryder family. Now... I have defended Dragon Age 2. I have gotten some flack for defending Dragon Age 2. But I still defend it because they made that game in a year. You know, they were severely restricted in how much time they could make Dragon Age 2 in. And they did quite a bit with the ridiculously limited time they had. Now, with that anecdote out of the way, Dragon Age 2 failed in many ways for me, creatively, because of the fact that it simply didn't have the ability to really follow through on a lot of its concepts, and the biggest one was the family of the Hawk. You know, the Hawk family. There was a strong feeling that there should have been an undercurrent of the Hawk family throughout Dragon Age 2, but there kind of wasn't. It was more like, occasionally, there was another side plot that had to do with the Hawk family, and then it didn't really have the skeletal structure it needed to really be underlying the whole game, right? So it kind of failed. I am hopeful, fingers crossed, that the Ryder thing will actually do what the Hawk family thing failed to do. In other words, we will actually have a family line. We'll actually have a multiple generational thing going into the future regarding the Ryders and their family. So when we do the 7 years later, it actually means something, rather than it feeling like tomorrow, you know? So when we jump forward in time, we actually jump characters, too. That would be a fairly brave and kind of bold thing to do. And I'm not even sure they're actually going to do that, to be blunt. But we do know there's going to be at least the two main writers, so... We'll see. Yeah, I need to scroll up a bit. Really, Dragoon? Wow. Considering how horribly dark Dragon Age is, that says a lot. Yeah, it would be nice to actually play as aliens rather than have alien sidekicks, basically. Although I do see the human-centric. What would be really cool is if they keep the human thing going, and then, like, based on your choices, you slowly become less human, if you follow my drift there, as you go through the generations. Oh, God. I don't know if I'm intelligent enough to do that, Palpatine. But it is not on the forbidden list, so it's up to you. Um, I had something else to talk about with regards to Andromeda. Oh yeah, so I have actually one last thing about Andromeda. I've actually been called some fairly negative things when it comes to the fact that I plan to play Andromeda when it comes out, and I plan to play it the day it comes out actually, and I planned to continue to do it. I'm going to do a premiere run of it, and I've been called all sorts of names for that. But the biggest question I keep hearing over and over and over and over and over is, do I have hope that Mass Effect Andromeda will be good? And that's always a question I have such a hard time answering. Like, I didn't think Star Trek Beyond would be good, for example. I was fortunately wrong. Um, I didn't think Inquisition would be good, and I was wrong on that. Now, Inquisition had some pretty serious flaws, but I did think it was still a net positive. Do I think Andromeda will be good? I think it's more accurate to say that I don't think it will be as good as Mass Effect 2 or Mass Effect 1. But I do think it will be better than Mass Effect 3. I'm not saying that as an insult to Mass Effect 3, by the way. I am saying that I think they're actually going to look at this and say, yeah, they're trying very hard to keep their jobs. Try to keep that into perspective. The people in charge here know just as well as we do. I shouldn't say the people in charge. The people making Andromeda know just as well as we do that if this fails, they're losing their jobs. So at the very least, if this is very cynical, they are motivated to make a good game. However, the cynic in me has to point out... Shut up, Siri. The cynic in me has to point out that it's not necessarily a good game they need to make. They just need to make a game that sells well. And if you don't understand the difference between the two, try to remember that there are games out there that are not good games that make tons of money. Thanks to marketing, corporate, financial, greedy bullcrap. So, yeah. I can't speak anything about the voice actors yet. Hi, Itchy. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, Spirit of Memory, if they actually had a meeting saying, this is your job is riding on this one. Make it work. EA is not the kind of company to be subtle at all. So, anywho, the long and the short of it is, we'll see. Regardless, that's all I got. Like I said, it's kind of a short news week. So I'm going to go ahead and pop off here. After some thought, I've decided not to continue streaming today, even though I actually want to. I just have so much work to do. So I'm going to go get some work done. And I will see you guys later.